Wow. So we got a few things out of that cutscene. He was touching his neck, and I think that he's traumatized by illness. This is just my prediction, but I think he was probably very, very sick or something. Maybe I was right to call him a sick boy, because I think that there was something keeping him alive. And I think he's traumatized by how mortal he is, and that actually pushed him into science and discovering how to basically become an endless, be immortal and whatnot. To me, he's especially eerie because you won't believe me, but he is a spitting image of one of my cousins. So every time I look at him, like, he looks almost exactly like him. This is very scary to me. But apart from that, shout out to my cousin. He's wonderful. But but I did not need to see him in Calyx anyway. I think that I think that they're doing what they've always done so well, which is basically creating a villain, but a villain who a lot of people can understand and relate to, because all he wants is essentially, and I'm gonna say this in the most blunt way possible, is to save people. So he doesn't see himself as a villain. He sees the sacrifices that, you know, need to be made from his perspective. But he's an evolutionist, and he's a scientist, and he objectively sees the sacrifice that needs to be made for the betterment, supposedly, of the human race, and he is not trying to destruct or cause pain for no reason. So everything that he does is with reason, within logic, and that's kind of what really has me intrigued. But I think that there is a selfish reason and some sort of a trauma or so something we don't know about him just yet that made him actually be afraid. I think that more than anything, he is afraid to die.
Yeah, he said weakened by illness. Did he say decayed by age?
Yeah.
It's like you wonder if those words, like, what are the meaning behind those words. He did say something else that I've seen it once, and I'd have to watch it back in editing or something, but it's very interesting to see what they're gonna do with him. And yeah, the touching his neck is certainly alluding to something. Like, they could deflate him pretty quickly. Not saying it's like a balloon. I'm not saying that, but they could deflate him as a character very quickly if they choose to, and have 7.3 pull out this thing. He's gonna turn into an enemy. We're gonna fight him as a primal, or a summon of some kind, or an enemy, or a boss, and then the end of his cycle. I think it would be kind of a bit lackluster. I think they could really lean into something bigger, lean into the next expansion. And this one, they've heavily referenced FF9. It makes me wonder if they're going to reference any particular next expansion, another Final Fantasy game, because they have done that with little bits of others, like Endwalker was FF4, FF9, FF for Dawntrail. So it just makes me wonder, man, if they ever do any references to 7, I'll be crying, because that is my favorite game of all time. I know they did the weapons and stuff like that already, but like, to me, there were still sort of subtle references, but they weren't like in the main story. And I'm not gonna lie, there is some mega thick references to 9 in this that you might have missed. Like,
probably.
Solution 9 is a name from FF9. Like, already you probably don't know that. I can tell you probably, it's not even a spoiler, but I could probably tell you, and that alone is a reference. The music playing right now is also in FF9, by the way. Like, everything's a reference. Sphene, Garnet, Sphene. That's a reference, right? The dungeon, we literally fought a Gargant, we fought basically Beatrix. Like, what more references do you need? That is more. It's more than that as well. So, there's this. They really go ham with the references in this, and like even us giving us clothing. And was it the rare TV that they showed off in the live letter was like Zidane's outfit for the Reaper?
I think it was Zidane for Viper, I think, and I think there was a Steiner for the tank. I think for White Mage we got Garnet's outfit. And I think there was something. I think for a Picto, was it Quina or something? I'm not sure. I think there was something looked similar to Quina's outfit, and everyone in the chat was commenting on it as well. Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't see that. Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Sad it's over, of course, but there's a mini patch. Do you remember, Vee? They were saying, at 7.25 or something, or 5.5, they were adding smells, and you were asking me, was that a cult something?
So they are actually splitting the content between 7.2 and 7.25. So a lot of things that are not available right now will be available quite soon. And I think that patch would be in the next, I think, a month. I don't think that they'll wait longer than a month for 7.25.
So normally patch cycles, like big patches, like 7.1, 7.2, they're normally every 4 months, I think, now. It used to be every 3 months, I think, but then they've moved the cycle to 4 months, which is fine. But now, because they're doing 7.25 or 5.5 or whatever everybody is, I think it's 6 weeks after this patch came out. So this has been out nearly a week now, right? Came out on Tuesday. It's now... Thursday. It's been out over a week. Oh yeah, sorry, it has only been out 2 days. So yeah, I reckon another 5 and my brain. I think another 5.5 more weeks at most, and I think the next little small patch of content will be dripped out, I think. So but no, I think this has been a really, really good patch overall. What do you think, Vee? I'll let you go first. What's your overall thoughts on 7.2 patch? Did it meet standards to you? Do you like where the story's going? Is it slowly redeeming, even just by 1%, is it slowly redeeming its arc from 7.0 a little bit? Do you like the characters? Is it keeping intrigued? Do you notice many of the improvements with music and all these little subtle details?
Do you think remember all the questions? No, just kidding. No, I'm just
throwing things out there in case so you've got things to
I know. So I'm very objective when it comes to my game reviews, and I think that this is something that might have not been fully obvious to some people who have found my content through basically me objectively, in my opinion, criticizing some parts of Dawntrail. But I give credit where credit is due, and I don't have the the mental capability to lie. I don't know how to say things that are just made for content or whatever. And when it comes to 7.2, for me, objectively, it has exceeded all expectations. I did not expect such a good story. I was hopeful because the story was revolving around Solution 9, and that immediately drew me in because it was my favorite zone from the entire expansion, the one where I actually wanted to spend more time. And then, as a little bit of a teaser, since we did the raid tier quite late, we did the Arcadian, and I was like, I want more of this. I want to spend more time in this place, and this is so far the best patch and the best part of Dawntrail that I have ever played so far. We have a dark character, a new trope, a pleasant place to be in with a cool soundtrack. I really like the environment. I think it's really it's kind of bright but also gentle. I think it has a lot of potential for good stories, and I think Dawntrail is finally doing what they were supposed to do in 7.0, and they're tapping into this existential crisis and the philosophy of whether people should be dying, how do people feel about dying, and how they can process this loss and whatnot. I think that if they had more of that in 7.0, we would have immediately understand what the game is trying to do better. Instead, we were dealing with spitting llamas and negotiations of tradings and this and that had nothing to do with what the expansion was really trying to say to us. And the only part where we actually got... And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Final Fantasy XIV should be all dark. I'm a little morbid like that, and I really like these stories. But I guess one of the most memorable moments from 7.0 for me was the story about the, what are they called? The children who were created as mixtures between those two races, and how most of them would die, and how only some of them would, the two-headed children, right? mixtures between the races.
Oh, the Galul.
Yeah,
Galul jars.
Yeah. Do you remember how the story went?
Yeah.
So they were basically breeding them, and a lot of them would just not make it through the process because they were too weak or whatever. I thought that was one of the most powerful stories in the entire expansion. And I think that we are actually getting the content that we kind of sign up for, and I think that I think that ultimately we should have had more of this in 7.0, and the announcement for the expansion should have been a little different. I think we were sold the story of a holiday, but that's not the game that we bought. And now that you look at the trailer for 7.0, I think you can agree that there's nothing in that trailer that connects that trailer to this particular, I guess, mood or tone. And I still consider post-patches to be a part of the expansion itself. So I think that there should at least be something that tells us that there's a little bit of a different story there. I still think that they missed the opportunity to give us a really good, that final zone that we had to shut down. I can't remember its name. What's it called?
It's just called what's the name? It's
you know what I mean.
Living
memory. Yes.
Sorry.
But we're coming back there with Calyx basically sitting on top of the living memory. So this dead city is now essentially his. And I like that, and it gave me a little bit of hope that we're going to come back there, and maybe there will be something that we have to, do with that zone. I don't think we're bringing the Endless back, because I think that the game is ultimately trying to explain to us that it's okay to die. So that's in the roughest possible terms. I think that the game really taps into that, which is very fearless, considering that everyone dies. And considering that, I don't mean to be triggering in any way, shape, or form, but not everyone who plays this game is healthy. Not everyone, is just playing this game and see it from a different perspective. Someone who might have a terminal illness or whatever is also playing Final Fantasy XIV right now, and this expansion might be hitting them a lot different than we think, and this might be a part of their final journey of acceptance. And I think that from that point of view, this game can be very, very difficult to play through for someone. A lot of people have lost someone. We've all lost someone, and I think that the constant mention of death and loss and processing the loss of a loved one and how to be okay with it is really triggering. It's a difficult topic, and I think that essentially Final Fantasy XIV is what it always has been, which is a giant therapy session. In my opinion, it's less of a game and more of a therapy session sometimes, and I'm just glad that they have remained fearless like that, because they've always tapped into these very, very difficult topics, and I felt for a long time that Dawntrail was playing it too safe. And I like that we're going back to just basically getting people to think and talk about things.
Yeah, I think it's very brave of Final Fantasy XIV to keep stepping out of the comfort zone and basically not touching on's the wrong word, but talking about, or at least making aware of these like awkward but normalized thoughts that we have about life and living forever or having limited life in the life that we have, and I think that is an FF9 sort of reference as well. So they complement in 9, but also it's given us some food for thought as well. I think my overall thoughts on 7.2 is I think it's great. I think it's really good. I think it's a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10. Like, I can't think of many ways to improve. And honestly, and for me, 8.5 to 9 again for 7.1, because they gave in this patch they gave good camera angles, the transitions. I know I'm a nerd, I'm a video editor as well. I watch a lot of movies, so I can tell when one scene finishes and how they get into the next scene, and they're doing this like swipe thing now. Cool. Maybe it was for this one scene, but I loved it. I thought that was great. I think the music has been phenomenal all throughout this whole this patch in particular, with a few new tracks. I think that at least 2 that I think of I think that were new, or maybe the same track, and I'm thinking it's two. And it's one end of the track to the other. But also, the dungeon design was good fun. The boss fights were somewhat challenging, but not too difficult. They were fresh. They weren't recycled mechanics. I mean, sure, some of them are. Sure, we know when a tank bust has happened. This is just so that we know what's going on. But also, the Beatrix fight was quite difficult, and that might be the fact that we did it on launch day. Disclaimer, me and V were just the bare minimum item level, and I'm not gonna lie and say that we went in basically bare minimum, and it was fun. It's like in a few years time it'll be like the equivalent of you going back and doing it minimum item level, but doing it on the patch launch. You can see how long it took us to learn these mechanics. Bearing in mind, we're not raiders, we don't do world first, we don't do ultimates or anything. I think we're very casual when we play this game, but it was still fun from a casual standpoint, and a lot of we say is from a casual standpoint. A lot of the criticisms we also say is also because we love this game so much. Honestly, my dream is to take V to a fan fest one day, and be with her and experience the 14 with her, because going to a fan fest together, nothing will beat it. But yeah, overall, I think
maybe
great.
A Persona concert.
But maybe overall, great expansion, great voice acting. I know there's a lot of comments still about Wuklamart. I didn't mind. I think that she had a pretty minimal role in this patch.
They really toned down, yeah.
And they minimized her a little bit in 7.1, I'll be honest. She was, of course, she is one of the quote-unquote main characters of Dawntrail. She's going to be in scenes. It would be weird to have Wuklamart be this important figure in 7.0, then just side, put her on the bench for the, patches. So she has to be there. She has to have dialogue, and she has to be involved. But she wasn't highlighted. The highlighted now is literally Sveen, Galulja, and Calyx.
I still think Kryle is done dirty,
But she's still in scenes. She's still getting dialogue and stuff. I do think that they've highlighted her, but I think that maybe 14 highlighted her on the front cover of the expansion and stuff, because I think that they felt that what they were doing was this news about her parents and things was going to be a bigger thing than it was. And to us, it really wasn't that. I mean, yes, it's quite shocking, but it was a small portion of this whole 40-hour expansion. It was like 1 hour. Yeah. Where she spends time with her parents, that we find out a bit about her parents, and that they were from this, so to me, I think that that's what their mistake was. And I think that's just a marketing flaw that they've done. I'm not going to hold on to it. They've done that. They have to learn. FF14, not just with Dawntrail, have made tons of mistakes. As I mentioned to you before as well, V, if people think Dawntrail was bad, they were not around for the Heaven's Ward launch, and they learnt from it, and guess what? They made some of the best expansions after that. So it's important that even though they've made some mistakes this expansion, it's important that they do it, because they can't get better if they don't make mistakes. They have to make mistakes, and guess what? They had to have an expansion have criticism in it and blop, if you like, for them to grow from it, and I think they will. I don't think it will still be an overall bad expansion, but I do think they're going to grow from it and learn a lot, and if anything, it should drive you forward to think, holy shit, they're going to learn, hopefully, and make the next one even better or whatever. But you have to remember, a lot of people think next patch they're going to make it better because they got a criticism at 7.0. Bro, they've got the game's done. Dude, they've probably got up to 9.0 written. I'm not joking. But they can still tweak if they wanted to, but the story has to be the same, but how they tell a story can be altered still. So but I really loved it. I think Dawntrail's fun. It is fun. I used to be really big on this. I used to stream this every Sunday with my community. I took a step away, felt that Dawntrail, again, the first half of Dawntrail was just slow, it wasn't hitting. A lot of people didn't want to even watch or play because of their own reasons, let alone watch me. So I took a break, and I've done the rest of it in recording with V, across the YouTube. And it's been fun. It's been really fun. Part of me is itching to get back into the game and do a lot more stuff. Maybe learn an extreme together and maybe do our thoughts on that or something. We mentioned that at the beginning of the video, so please leave us some feedback on that. If you'd like to see that, leave us a comment down below. If you don't want to leave it here,
honestly, I wouldn't be against trying Beatrix, just for the sake of it. We've actually never done an extreme together, and how fun would it be to just kind of sit one day and just try and do the I call it the Beatrix, but let's call it Zelenia or whatever.
Well, I'm just saying I'm calling it Beatrix, but I understand what you're Zelenia,
yeah. So I think that it's very it's fun, and seeing the original fight as in on normal. It gives me higher hopes for Savage as well, and I am not against. Yes, for the extreme.
Yeah, sorry.
I wouldn't be against making more FF14 content and just playing for myself, because even though the MSQ itself doesn't have a lot to do with how willing I am to play the rest of the game, it affects me more than I thought it did. For a few reasons. I think that having a good story makes me more inclined to play FF14, which doesn't really make any sense, because raids should be separate, crafting should be separate, but if I'm disappointed with the overall story, it makes me less inclined to actually play the game. Even though the combat or the fights or whatever, they may still be good. So I'm actually okay with that, and I have to just bring up a point as content creators, because this is just something that we have to talk about, and we can't ignore the fact that when an expansion has an overall bad reception, you won't find many content creators who are going to go against the flow and spam content that they think is going to tank their channels. And for someone who does YouTube or Twitch or both full time, it's the harsh reality. And we have to stay on top of these things. And when an expansion is hitting, of course, you're going to see more content creators create good quality content. And it seems superficial. It seems like you should just be doing whatever you want. So even if you want to play Final Fantasy XIV, you should just be uploading content. But you know that that's not how the reality is. I know, as a complete side topic that I won't go too deep into, but when FF14 kind of sort of fell off after Endwalker, and people stopped being as interested in it fell off engagement wise. So people, I guess the initial surge of new players and people who were participating on Twitch and YouTube and whatnot, and watching content, hanging out in streams and whatnot, when that fell off, a lot of content creators had to find alternatives. I took a break from Final Fantasy XIV to grow my other YouTube channel, which started off as Variety. Now it's mostly Persona, because that's where I found myself, but I still come back to FF14 whenever there's new content, and now I'm actually enjoying it, so...
I think another thing we're going to be doing, for those who didn't gather we would be doing it, we will be doing the 8-man raid content as well. So we won't be doing like Savage or anything, or at this given time, but we will be doing the next 8-man raid. We admittedly only did the 8-man raid once. We've got the video on YouTube. We didn't do much more of that, and I kind of wish we did, because it was fun. And maybe we'll spam them in our own spare time. But when we do decide, maybe one night to start getting into like doing a bit of like extreme farming or something, maybe me and UV can sit down, stick a recording on for 2 or 3 hours, and just try and get into a party finder, do some learning right now while it's fresh. And we could maybe show some footage of us learning or something, and maybe you could do a voiceover or something, and just maybe talk about your overall experience and what you felt like extreme was, or something like that. Or 8-man.
Go back,
we'll think of something, but all this to come, hopefully, in the future. We also like World of Warcraft content. Vee also makes World of Warcraft content on her channel as well. And I'm also, with Vee, having a bit of a series going on where technically taking a bit of a break at the moment, but
we have to continue that.
Yeah, but we've been playing a lot of World of Warcraft. Yeah, we're currently
in Burning Crusade, maybe halfway through.
Yeah, we've started a playthrough of World of Warcraft where we've gone through the base game, then we're now in the Burning Crusade, and we're going through all the areas in every part of the zones and doing quests. Basically starting from Burning Crusade. We didn't do that with the base game, but we're going to be going into, we're into Burning Crusade, going for all the zones. I think we're like nearly halfway done with all the zones. They're about an hour or 2 or 3 hour long when you've put the whole zone in one area with doing all the quests, but it's fun to kind of like have that maybe a bit of banter between me and V, and just hanging out and talking about the game, and maybe comparing a little bit to 14 and going through the story. And V's educated me because I'm completely oblivious to World of Warcraft, so it's been a lot of fun. I'm also a controller player, so I've been playing mouse and keyboard. But if you would like to see that series, check out V's channel on the playlist section, and you'll see that there. People on my side also go to V's channel and check out that, because I don't have a playlist on mine.
If you're new to Mr. Neon Genesis, he is actually a speedrunner. He speedruns Final Fantasy VII and 8 and 9. So if you're into FF any game, and especially these three, and you want to see some somewhat competitive speedrunning when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, do check out his channel as well. You can find all the links in the description. Like both of the videos, subscribe to the channels, and let us know in the comments what you would like to see in the future when it comes to 14 and other things as well. Thank you for watching, and happy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye gaming.